Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice, an initiative where we take up important news articles of the day and curate MCQs as per the demands of Civil Services exam. Articles covered today are shown on your screen, and detailed description of answers are provided in PDF and Word format in the description box down below. So, let us begin. Starting off with the first article of the day, which appeared in page 1 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article reports that the centre has announced MSP for paddy sown in the Kharif season, and it is an increase of Rs 143 a quintal from last year's figure. Now, government's MSP program remains in news for various social, economic and political reasons, thus making it important from prelims point of view. This can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2020 on MSP in case of cereals and pulses. On similar lines, here's practice question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding MSP. Statement 1. It is announced based on recommendations of Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Now this statement is incorrect because the MSPs are announced based on recommendations of the Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, also known as CACP. The second statement, it says that present method of fixing MSP includes the implied cost of family labor. Now this statement is correct because the current method of calculating MSP is called A2 plus FL method, which includes expenditure on various inputs such as seeds, fertilizers and pesticides etc. in addition to implied cost of family labor. Statement third, it says that minimum support prices do not enjoy statutory recognition. Now this statement is also correct because in wake of recent farmers protest, there have been demands for legalization of MSP. However, in present context, the MSPs they do not enjoy statutory recognition, which means that there is a no obligation on the government to purchase all the commodities for which MSPs have been declared. In addition, that there is no obligation on the government to pay MSPs to the farmers. Now, how many of the above statements is or are correct? From the above discussion, we can say that only two statements are correct, making option B the correct answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option D is the correct answer. Moving on to the second article of the day, which appeared on page 8 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article shows us that transitioning to low carbon or even net zero cities requires us to integrate mitigation and adaptation options in multiple sectors. Now, adaptation and mitigation remains key to deal with negative impacts of climate change. It is also a key concept in environment section and have been asked by UPSC before in various forms such as in PYQ of the 2016 it asked us a question on Paris Agreement of the year 2015. On similar lines, here's practice question number 2. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Adaptation focuses on adjusting to the current and future effects of climate change. Now, this statement is correct because adaptation means anticipating the adverse effects of climate change and taking appropriate actions to prevent and minimize the damage. Examples of adaptation include large scale infrastructure changes such as building defenses to protect against sea level rise, as well as behavioral shifts such as individuals reducing their food waste. Statement 2. Mitigation focuses on preventing the emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now, this statement also is correct because mitigation means making the impact of climate change less severe by preventing or reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Mitigation can be achieved either by reducing the source of these gases or by enhancing the storage of these gases. In short, mitigation is the human intervention that reduces the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. Now, which of the above statements is or are correct? From the above discussion, we can safely say that option C is the correct answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option B was the right answer. Moving on to the third article of the day, which appeared on the last page of today's The Hindu newspaper. This article talks about that how X-rays are an important way to identify the types of a material, as X-ray or X radiation are a form of high energy electromagnetic radiation. X-rays are generated when high energy electrons interact with matter, and X-ray photons carry enough energy to ionize these atoms and disrupt the molecular bonds. Now, key developments in science and technology are important from prelims point of view, and this is apparent from this PYQ of the year 2020 on visible light communication. On similar lines, here's practice question number 3. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. X-ray crystallography is used to determine the positions of atoms in crystals, whereas statement 2 says that X-rays have much shorter wavelengths than visible light, which makes it possible to probe structures much smaller that can be seen using a normal microscope. Now, X-rays are used in checking for fractures, spot pneumonia, and spot cancer. The ionizing capabilities of X-rays can be utilized in cancer treatment in order to kill malignant cells using what is called a radiation therapy. This can be done because X-rays have much shorter wavelength than visible light, which makes it possible to probe structures much smaller that can be seen on normal microscope. This property is used in X-ray microscopy to acquire high resolution image and also in X-ray crystallography to determine the positions of atom in crystals. It is also used for material characterization using X-ray spectroscopy. From this above discussion, we can say that statement 1 is correct as well as statement 2 is correct, and also statement 2 is correct explanation for statement 1, thus making option A the correct answer. Whereas the PYQ is concerned, option C was the right answer. Moving on to the fourth article of the day, which appeared on page 15 of the Indian Express. This article reports that the Financial Services Institution Bureau, or FSIB, has selected the next chairman for General Insurance Corporation of India and the next CMD of National Insurance Company. Now, health of financial institutions is key to macroeconomic stability of the Indian economy. Hence, bodies responsible for it are in news, and this is important from prelims point of view as well, which can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2022 on Banks Board Bureau. On similar lines, here's practice question number 4. Consider the following statements regarding Financial Services Institutions Bureau, or FSIB. Statement 1. It is a government body set up under Reserve Bank of India. Now this statement is incorrect because FSIB is a government body and it was set up under Department of Financial Services of Ministry of Finance. Statement 2. FSIB is headed by a deputy governor of the RBI. Now this statement again is incorrect because FSIB is headed by a chairman who is a central government nominee, and the board, it comprises of secretary of the Department of Financial Services, the chairman of IRDAI, and a deputy governor of the RBI. In addition, it also has 3 part-time members who are experts in banking and 3 more part-time members from the insurance sector. FSIB's primary role is to identify manpower capabilities and ensure that proper selection of talent for senior positions at financial institutions owned by government. It also issues guidelines for selecting general managers and directors of public sector general insurance companies. Hence, which of the following statement given above is or are correct? From the above discussion, we can easily say that option D is the right answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option B was the right answer. Now moving forward to the fifth article of the day, which appeared on page 20 of the Indian Express. This article reports how, as a result of fall in prices of cotton, the area under the cultivation of cotton is likely to decrease this Kharif season. As India is one of the world's largest producer of cotton, thus changes in its production is important from exam perspective. And this can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2020, where a question appeared on cotton. On similar lines, here's practice question number 5. With reference to cotton, consider the following statements. Statement 1. It is a rabi crop and native to tropical and subtropical regions around the world. Now this statement is incorrect because it is not a rabi crop, rather it is a kharif crop
and cultivation of cotton is largely dependent on rainfall patterns, and it grows in the month of April to May. This crop is native to tropical and subtropical regions around the world, and it is a major crop of Americas, Africa, Egypt, India, and China for centuries. Statement 2. Cotton needs a minimum of 5 to 6 irrigations, especially during the flowering, bud, and ball formation stages. Now, this statement is correct because cotton is one of the largest users of water among all agriculture commodities and needs a minimum of 5 to 6 irrigations. Statement third. Only a third of India's cotton area is under irrigation and the rest is entirely rain fed. Now, this statement is correct as only a third of India's cotton area is under irrigation, while the rest is entirely rain-fed. And this is one of the reasons for shrinking cotton cultivation in India, and reduction in rainfall is also not a good sign. Now, how many of the statements given above are correct? From the above discussion, we can say that two statements are correct, thus making option B the right answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option A was the right answer. Now, moving forward to the last article of the day, which appeared on page 23 of the Indian Express. This article tells us how Fiji is reevaluating its security pact with China amid escalating geopolitical tensions in the Pacific. Whereas the United States, it recently signed a new security pact with Papua New Guinea, which is strategically positioned just north of Australia. While the Solomon Island signed its own security pact with China last year, and it caused a concern across the entire Pacific region. Now, map-based questions on areas which are in news have been asked by UPSC before, for example, in the year 2022. On similar lines, here's practice question number 6. Consider the following Pacific region countries: Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Solomon Islands, and Fiji. And this question asks us to sequence them arranging from east to west. Now, as you can see from this map, Tonga is the easternmost country among the following options. Moving west, we can see Fiji, whereas further west, there's Solomon Islands. West to Solomon Islands is the island of Papua New Guinea. Hence, the correct sequence from east to west is Tonga, Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Papua New Guinea. Thus, as per the question, option B is the correct answer. Whereas the PYQ is concerned, here option C was the right answer.